Development Authority meeting to order. And we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is Chris not joining? Or is he just running late?
He went to go print some packets. He'll be right back. I can take roll.
Okay, Brandy, would you mind taking a roll call?
Commissioner Matthews?
Here.
Commissioner Thorson?
Here.
Commissioner Furlong is excused. Chair Dew?
Here.
Council Liaison Mayor Monkey?
Here.
Commissioner Shifsky?
Here.
Here. And Council Liaison Cole.
Here.
And also present is Brian Frandl, City Manager, and myself, Community Development Director, Brandy Howe.
Okay, the agenda is published. Does everybody have it? Or should we wait for the packets? Okay, we're going to pause momentarily for the packets, and I think we need to have them. For those that don't. So we're on pause. Free discussion period. Mr. Shifsky, how's your day?
Wonderful.
See, I got you to talk.
Got him.
That didn't take long.
Talk Mustang.
They haven't even got them out of the garage yet. They haven't even started them yet.
I can't say that.
What do you have?
It's a 2016 GT.
Set that
And I don't have a ticket yet.
Nice.
I always throw in there yet,
Yeah, exactly.
because it's kind of, you don't realize how quick, fast you're going. It doesn't seem, of course, you could, literally, the last month was almost hit twice. Driving down 36 to Roseville, I'm in the right-hand lane, and I must have been in the blind spot on this, she's moving over with the grocery getter van. And I move over, and then the person in the passenger side must have been screaming at the driver. All of a sudden, back, and, I mean, talk about overcorrection. I think that could have been a bad situation. But I'm like a motorcycle driver. I'm not gonna assume that anyone sees,
No,
That's
you
for
can't.
no
sure.
matter what I'm in.
Not in this day and age.
Nope.
If you drive down the road and you see them drifting over to your side,
Recording in progress.
it's just, you know they're looking at their phone.
Yep.
Absolutely. All righty, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Off press.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, they're warm.
Sitting in the sun.
Okay, now that you have the agenda in front of you, first item is to adopt the agenda. Will entertain any, no changes?
Second.
We got a motion, a second. Any proposed changes or modifications? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is adopted. First item is approval of minutes from the May 9th meeting.
It sounds like you weren't able to review the minutes, so would you like to postpone those until next month?
We can, I did have the opportunity to read through them all, and that's fine to me. Does anybody want to table it, or take my word for it? They love to, so.
Yeah, you seem like an upstanding guy.
We're good.
I'll need a motion I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from May 9th. Got a motion, a second?
Second.
A second, Mr. Shifsky, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none. We've approved the minutes for May 9th. Meeting open to the public. Do we have anybody online?
There's no one on Zoom?
Nobody on Zoom, nobody in the room, so we will go to EDA, item 6, EDA discussion and action items. First item is the 2024 budget discussion, and I'll hand it over to Brandy Howe.
Thank you. Within your packet is the proposed EDA budget for next year. Within that, the proposed revenues are the tax levy. That's not proposed to change in 2024. Other revenue listed as anticipated in investment income. Proposed expenditures are also not intended to change. There's a slight decrease in health insurance based on individual elections for the salaries piece. There's no budget for supplies in 2024, which is similar to previous years. Contracting services are limited to legal services and general liability insurance. And then there is a transfer of funds of $10,000 proposed over the course of the year, as has been done in previous budgets, and that has been at the direction of the former city council. Any questions about the items in the budget? Or any discussion about things that might need to be included that are not shown currently?
I have a couple. So I dug into some of the detail on 23, and the miscellaneous item, 125,000, that is the forgivable loan, is that correct, to Max Diner?
What page are you on?
Page 10 of 36 in the agenda, page 3 of 3 on the budget proposal. Which appears to be the detail of the cover page.
Tell me the number again.
$125,000 in the miscellaneous line, under 2022 actual.
Oh, yes, I believe that is what that is for. I can get confirmation though and let you know via email though if you'd like.
No, that's fine. I
Okay.
don't know what else it would be. And then, well, that other line's the variance. Okay, I get you. It's the only questions I have. Anyone else? Questions or comments on the proposed 24 budget? Obviously, our largest expense is the personnel and then a little bit of cost sharing, and the rest of it somewhat becomes discretionary for consultant use and trying to move projects throughout the course of the year or whatever it is we're working on.
That might be the place for that discussion should be probably at this point, is to figure out what do we foresee happening in 2024 as an organization? What do we need to have money? What kind of projects do we want to have money for, and how much are they going to cost us?
I mean, the only thing that comes to mind for me is we have a couple of ongoing pieces. I need to refer back to another item here. We have, I don't know, have we accounted for the full cost of our participation in the PR video program?
Yes, I believe that has been invoiced, and it should be coming out in the next,
Is that all in 23?
yes.
Okay. We have,
Actually, no, I think that's been paid already. Your half has been paid. What I was thinking of is the invoice that's forthcoming from the architect for Little Box for the corner building.
we have the discussion about, any involvement that we might have related to helping Reflex resolve their additional space needs. Hard to anticipate. I can't, I couldn't put a dollar number on it, but whether that's additional studies, space plans, whatever, that, pretty ancillary items, but $2,000 to $5,000 out of whack. We need to certainly keep a reserve for that kind of thing. I don't know that we'd want to identify it specifically because we don't know that whether we're going to need to do it. But that's the general makeup of when we look at the budget originally, we allocate typically a fair amount of dollars for consultant-type work, non-identified consultant work. So that's kind of how we got to the 200 number, and then how we got to 209, I'm not sure, but probably just inflation, I guess. Beyond that, the only other items is if we wind up, again, having a slight budget reserve, so we don't have to dig into cash reserve for potential participation in any improvement-type programs throughout the community, or things like the fall roundup and things like that, that we might have some ancillary expenses for. And I don't think we've identified, we don't have the contractual services. Yeah. What is that, 5,200? Is that specific to something?
Yep, there's 4,000 that was dedicated specifically to legal, and then the 1,247 was for liability insurance. So I think we've got some wiggle room with what we want to do with contractual services, if we want to shift
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, historically, we've wind up spending a decent amount of money. In 21, we spent, looks like almost 13,000 in engineering services. In 22, it was almost 35,000. So that tends to eat into our budget quite a bit. Again, it's not identified, but, we would hold it in reserve. Those would be my comments. We just, we don't know what comes in front of us, but something happens, the property becomes available, we need to engage somebody to figure out what's what, and that's where those dollars wind up getting spent, so. Any other thoughts or comments on whether we should be specifically allocating for anything else, or?
I'm interested in what that quote from Shifsky's will be for this, and that would affect 2023, wouldn't it?
Potentially, we do have, as a separate agenda item, that's the downtown green space, which we can either opt to allocate some of our either cash balance or 2023 budget towards that, which we still have capacity, but we can take that up
Yeah.
when it comes, or we can punt it to 24 or punt it altogether,
Sure.
so.
Yeah, those are all options. So what I think I heard so far is that under general contracting consultant services, we should add $2,000 to $5,000 for just a placeholder for possible consultants, like the space needs analysis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unrealistic. Right now, the proposed budget shows, shows a surplus of, 40-some thousand, almost $50,000. I don't think that's real. I mean, we're not targeting a surplus of that size. I think that inevitably we wind up spending those dollars. I personally would suggest that we set the kind of engineering, we'll call it engineering services or the like, it might be some ancillary component thereof, but, it's not unrealistic to think that we're going to spend $25,000, $30,000 in that arena, because that's usually where we wind up spending money, is for studies, to have professionals figure something out for us. I'd rather plug that in that line item and show less of a
Yep.
surplus. Does everybody concur with that? So maybe put 30 in that line item, Randy?
Yep, 30 and then 5 for the other.
And that would take the essentially projected 24 surplus to the $20,000 range, or is that correct?
I'm not sure where you're looking at.
I'm looking at your page 8 of 36 in the agenda. It's the proposed 2024 budget. Right now, it shows 49,209 as a projected surplus.
Oh, yep,
So if we
that is correct.
put a total of 30,000, it would be 20, if there's already 5 in there, it'd be 24,000, which I think is a palatable number to show as a surplus. And Again, we'll it's available for, we'll call it miscellaneous expenditures approved by the EDA. Or those hidden power bills that Brian sends us. Perfect. Do you need anything more from the group on that?
Just confirmation that we all agree, and then I can move that forward through the budget process.
Why don't you put 40 in there then?
As far as the levy is concerned, I don't think the levy amount will change. I don't know.
Right, no, I see that, but I mean, the surplus is 49,000. You said throw 30 in there and you'd have how much left? I got 19 after that.
If we wanted to zero it out, we could put 19 in the miscellaneous, if that's what we want.
I think you should do that.
Okay.
I think you've already had several quotes on that project that we're interested in moving forward to, and if that isn't gonna cover it, you could cover half of it in 2023 and the other half in 2024.
Sure. So what,
So I wouldn't put a surplus of anything in there,
is that fair?
realistically.
Everybody agree with that? I'm okay with that.
I think that makes sense, Chris.
Bean color in me.
So if we can move then whatever, if you set 30,000 at legal, or excuse me, engineering services, and then take whatever the balance is and put that in miscellaneous as a planned expenditure, showing a projected net cash, it's essentially showing net cash position or gain. It would be actually net gain, not net cash position, correct? Because there is an account balance. So that would be, should be shown as zero.
Okay,
Good?
understood, yep.
I do have a question about, we may not know the answer to that, but I'll go ahead and ask it. Beyond the levy, we do have, I think we have some anticipated or expected reimbursables related to the Lilly project. Is that, am I correct in stating that?
I don't think so. What are you thinking?
Some of our expenditures with the Port Authority, other ancillary expenditures we had up front. I think part of the development agreement is that we're going to get reimbursement for some of that, either by the developer at closing or through the TIF.
I would have to check the TIF agreement. I don't think that is in the development agreement, though.
Can we check that?
Yep.
Because we did have some cash outlays that we, at least this member of the EDA is expecting to get reimbursed for.
Didn't we also have a cash outlay for the housing study that was to have been rolled, part of that rolled in and shared with the Lilly
Correct,
project as well?
correct.
Sorry, that was from the Lilly project as well? Okay.
I think we expanded the housing study to contain some specifics regarding that area with an agreement to reimburse a portion of it. And I'm sure it's all well documented in the meeting minutes.
Great. I'll double check.
I say that a bit tongue in cheek, but
Okay, yep. Chris
any
and I will take
other
a look at
comments or recommendations on 2024 budget? And this is, again, for clarity, is to go into the city's budget cycle.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's.
We're not authorizing an expenditure, any expenditures or anything here.
Right, this is just what will go to council.
This
for
is
them
where
to
we think we're
approve.
going to spend the money. Okay, any other discussion? This does not require a vote, is that correct, or does it?
Certainly wouldn't hurt.
Would you like it?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2024 budget with the comments that were just adopted to be sent to the city council.
I second that.
I need a so moved first.
Oh, so moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, unanimously carried. All right, next item. Get back to my agenda. Item 6B, the downtown green space. There is a staff briefing in your packet. Brandy, I'll hand it over to you to.
Sure. I don't know that we need to discuss this in too much more detail, but as you recall, there is that open space between Sidewinder's Tattoo and,
Yep.
gosh, I don't even know what's on the other side of it. So anyway, there was a proposal to put in half of it brand-new parking, half of it was a green space area. In the last EDA meeting, I was directed to get quotes to see what it would cost to pave the whole area. So what you have in your packet is all of the quotes that we have received so far, to either do half of the lot with the green space or the full lot. And we've got quotes from TA Shifsky or BR by 2 Minutes Roadways, Inc.
So by my reading of this then, we're staring at, and when I say we collectively as a city, if we wanted to do half lot of paving and half green space with irrigation, barring any kind of ancillary stuff like tables and chairs or what have you, we're looking at roughly $79,000. If we wanted to just pave the full lot, we're looking at 52.5 if we found that the bids submitted were appropriate and we accepted them. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is my understanding as well, yep.
Okay. I think the way we left it as a group, this is more defined than we had it before, but I think the way we left it at the last meeting was to try to get a read on the council regarding participation. And if I read the staff memo correct, either staff or council has flipped the script on us and said, how much are you willing to give? Is that
Have you had discussions with council?
before we answer?
That's what I remember.
Looking at that, yeah.
Or were we doing half and then quarter and quarter for city and HRA, and then half from, what was the final on that?
I think where we were, we wanted to get a read from the council that we weren't able or willing to fund the entirety of it. But depending on what the final number is, the EDA was likely willing to fund up to 50% of it, although we haven't approved that officially yet because we didn't have numbers in front of us. But, so, I mean, if we're using that, what we have in front of us, and let's say we did half greens, the most expensive option, or at least as it's presented, and as I understand it, is roughly, I'm gonna call it 79,000, just around, is roughly, we'll call it 80, keep the math simple. The EDA would be contributing 40,000, and 40,000 would be coming from the council and/or their ancillary agencies that have a bank account.
You're right, I was thinking of the production video where we made half and 25.
It'd be HRA for
But,
that.
yeah, council was in support, correct me if I'm wrong, of doing half of that project.
Yeah, I know we've had a lot of discussion since then with you about the $1 million we're transferring for the ash trees and different other expenses that have come up from different funds. Is that still okay then?
Well, the 1.25 would be strictly for roads.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were seeing if there were extra funding available for the ash trees, which we're at
85,000 less, okay.
We're doing for that right now.
Okay. Well, so operating under the assumption that we would get a bill for about half, can we just get a read from the EDA as to if we were contributing, I'm gonna say approximately $40,000 towards this effort? Where do we land on that? I know we kind of beat this down a little bit last time, but let's just refresh our positions on,
Yeah, I
is it
think,
a worthy contribution?
yeah, I think it's a worthy contribution. I think, from my understanding, we were under kind of the same page of, if we were only paying for half that, the EDA was in support of that. That's
That's what I
what I remember from 2 months ago.
Yep, and I recall the only, I'll call it dissent for lack of a better term, or alternative view was, Chris, you were open to it, but you kind of liked more parking than the green space, is that correct?
Yeah, and I haven't, I'm not gonna waver from that thought, because with this bid here at 52,000, we're not blowing our budget by too much, especially if we're gonna get some participation from the council. And then it's more important that I'm looking at the point that it's a development site, a proposed development site, and I'd be very hesitant to spend way more money on permanent site like that, like, that's gonna get maybe torn up in the future. Now, if it's not gonna be, if it's gonna be pulled off as a development site, and it's just gonna be permanently left that way, that's a different story.
I don't think that's the intent. I think it is a site that's available for development.
Yeah, so under those guidelines, I would advocate doing exactly what, getting that whole thing paved so that it's not as unsightly, have it so that it's, you know, water is flowing off, not so that it creates problems for any of the buildings there. And it provides parking for many different businesses. It's not just exclusively for, probably is at the moment for sidewinders, but it's parking for everyone. And so, and it would look a lot better than it is. I agree with that.
Other thoughts, comments?
It's unsightly, something needs to be done. Basics, because we don't know what's gonna happen 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
I don't disagree with the position, you know, the general premise of, let's just pave it, take the cheaper route. The one thing that I do want to just remind the group of is that as part of the redevelopment master plan, one of the things that we've been trying to pull into the downtown district in particular is some softer spaces. Now, even though this wouldn't be permanent, and I think they're referred to as pocket parks in the redevelopment master plan. Even though that is would not be a permanent installation, I do think that, you know, we have some responsibility to lead on this, particularly as we have, if we get other developers that show up and want to do something, and we want to press the issue of give us some soft space, right? And we have the ability to say, you know, we've provided some, you know, here's an example of some soft space, presuming it still exists at the time we're having this conversation with unnamed future developer. I just would find it a little hypocritical to not follow our own kind of guidance. Now, does that have to be half that area? Maybe not. Maybe we modify it, and maybe it's not even grass. Maybe it's a 6 foot wide, you know, that doesn't significantly disrupt the parking abilities in there. Maybe it's a 6 foot wide or planted area or something on either side that's a little easier to maintain and doesn't have to be mowed.
Irrigation is the thing, that you spend all that money to do irrigation and put sod down
Right.
and stuff like that. To me, that's just too much for a spot that's not dedicated. That's a lot of money to throw in the ground and keep watering.
Costs do not include the city getting to the water main and feeding that Sprinkler Spear, so
Yeah.
that would be a large number.
Is there, I would suspect there's something we could do to soften it, so it's just not pavement, though. I don't know what that is. Brandy, you might know better.
What are you going to do if a developer comes in and wants to buy that space and says, this area is not big enough for what I wanna do? I wanna tear that soft space out of there.
Oh,
Now people are gonna say, well, you're tearing a pocket park out, or you're tearing whatever out.
No, I mean, that's a good point. And when I'm saying soft space, I mean, quite frankly, it could be large pots of plants. I don't know. It's just something to soften it up a little bit.
I can see that like in the middle where they
Yeah.
put like curbing and they got some tall grass you can put in
Yeah,
there.
something that-
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Pickleball court in the middle of it.
There you go. That's gonna be Maplewood Mall.
What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, movable planters or something. I just think it would be, I'm just a little hesitant to just blacktop the whole thing over. I get the parking thing, and I'm just trying to, again, if we do it, then everybody wants to do that, whatever, just hardscape stuff. And
I'm also hearing, kind of soft space, and I don't think we kind of know exactly what that is, but just offsetting the price a little bit.
yeah, it might cost us a little bit
A
more.
little bit more, but we're not talking another
No.
30 grand.
No, we're talking, I like the idea, actually, portable planters, things that could be picked up with a forklift, and, yeah, they probably got to get watered by somebody, but we don't have to have permanent irrigation. Maybe we can have a couple benches there, because remember, we do actually have I'll call it an extra-wide concrete area there, too, between the building frontage and the street, so that's a place where people can sit and gather and whatever, and then we can still use a bulk of it for parking.
We had the empty space where the city hall used to be for a long time. It was a rough looking place for quite some time. When they did plant it, there was an enormous amount of feedback from the public, how much it felt better downtown.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I mean, to take a step back, I mean, we've been having a conversation for close to 2 years on this space. And it originally started from the fact that we weren't in complete compliance with our own ordinances because we were actually to have returned it back to a green space as opposed to a Class 5 parking lot. And I think that's where a lot of this conversation started with us is what can we do? And since that conversation started, I think the price to do the property has more than doubled from some of our early quotes. I wasn't at the May meeting when this was discussed a little bit more in detail, but my feeling is that the soft space, I have a parking lot and green space is definitely the direction to go for downtown. I don't have all the details. I question what needs to be under irrigation, what needs to be sodded, what portion Public Works can do to help decrease some of these costs. I don't know if that was all vetted out 2 months ago when everyone talked.
Not necessarily. I think it had gotten tabled for such a period of time that we needed to revisit the quotes that we had. So staff has done that. And although we had looked at several iterations of a plan, and I think at one point had even decided, and then we got stalled by either our own forgetfulness or something. We'll blame the marketplace. Inflation stalled us. But we just brought it back to the table to try to act on it here. And we weren't sure. I think the other thing was we were not sure. We knew we didn't want to or couldn't afford to pay for the whole thing, so we wanted to understand participation.
So if you're looking for direction, I'm on the half paved, half grass spot. When the old space where the apartments are now. Movie on Main, that's no longer available. I mean, we used to do a lot of stuff with that green space downtown. So to not have a green space downtown or a soft space is a definite need, in my opinion.
Brian, you'd mentioned that we'd have to grab the main for irrigation. Is there any way to work out a irrigation tap with one of the adjacent neighbors that already has water? I mean, to me, that would be a significant cost saver if we had the ability to do that. Other comments, thoughts?
And no matter what we decide, once we spend the money, it'll sell.
which is fine, and we'll get our money back.
My comment would be, the last meeting we had, it was kind of set up as more of an urgency to get moving on this because it just keeps delayed and delayed and delayed. It looks the same. And the hangup was, hey, it's over $100,000. And then we brought up, well, let's just take a look at what it would be to just pave it, period. It's going to be a site that potentially can be developed. So, I mean, it looks like we could pay for it ourselves right out of our own budget.
Don't say that again out loud.
Well, it's dropped considerably,
Oh, it has. I mean,
and it takes care of a big problem. And so, yeah, this could go on and on and on some more, so.
For me, part of it is everybody wants to, with it comes to using public works, well, that means there's other things that aren't getting done. So we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So to me, we have to be careful that we're making sure that we're still getting done what we need to get done, and so that'd be a big concern on my part.
Those costs were looked into, and that is the reason why you see the quote in there for the sprinkler, because they were initially looking at them doing it, Public Works doing it, and it didn't make any sense for that, but, I don't know how many man hours it would take to tap into the water supply, but
If we can do a neighbor thing,
all right, so I'll just, here's what I'm going to suggest, and then we'll take an informal head count here. Councilmember Cole, appreciate the half grass, half paving deal. I'm kind of more in that camp, but I'm willing to compromise, keep the cost down, let's get something in and get it in place. It sounds like if we could do some portable planters and create, I don't know if we have benches at Public Works or get some benches, create something to soften it between the street and the parking, provide seating area. I think, depending on everybody's schedule, it might even get in place in time for kind of fall roundup. And our expenditures would be less. Would be the camp that I'm in. And so I think what we'd be talking about in that regard is, the 52, assuming the BRs, have these bids been vetted? Are they complete? Okay. Assuming that the bids are complete, the 52.5 to bituminous roadways to do the full lot paving. And then I think we would probably want to allocate, I will just suggest another, $5,000 for, we may not spend all of that, but another $5,000 for some quality portable planters that could be placed there with some plantings and a couple benches if we can't get them out of park stock, if Parks doesn't have any. Does that sound like a okay compromise? I got 2 yeses down here.
You got the number you need, I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Are you abstaining?
Oh. Mayor?
Where do you sit, sir?
I'm on the compromise.
Okay. All right, so we'll entertain a motion to direct staff to engage bituminous roadways to get that work completed, and provided city council's paying half.
Proposal need to go back to council for final approval?
I think so.
I think the council would be approving a budget modification, and that's how it would happen. Is that correct? Okay.
You don't have to know the scope of the project?
Well, I would imagine that they would.
it would be less than the 40 that was discussed previously.
So half of the 52, you're saying?
Well, you're gonna wind up at around 30 if you take half the planters. If we allocate 5,000 for planters and plantings, it would be about 30, a little under 30,000.
Yeah, it's like-
A lot of these were conversations I had one-on-one as a council sitting together in the council and voting on that.
because I'm asking, because I won't support the bill, is the recommendation as it goes forward without full council approval. I would like Park and Rec person to weigh in on it. I would like, I would like others to weigh in, and if it still stands, that's fine. I just don't want to try to push something through.
No, I don't know that this is necessarily an item for another commission. I think that you were referring to having the council liaison for the Parks Commission. Is that what you were referring to?
No,
just
Park and Rec have been talking about the green space and what they can do with it.
I don't know
Same
if
with
that
arts
was
and
the site that
culture.
they specifically were referring to, though. But
So.
I certainly can bring it up to both of those commissions at their next meetings. I think that the Arts Commission is meeting.
I mean, regardless of the
Tomorrow.
commissions, let's bring it up at council at the next meeting and get it moving forward.
Okay.
So my recommendations would be to put a presentation together somewhat similar to this, what the option A and option B would look like.
And yours is the half and half.
Mine's a half and half, or 2/3 and a third, or, I just want grass. Well, we don't have it, we talked earlier about a compromise where there's maybe a little bit more parking, which should bring the cost down because there's less green space, soft space, but,
Can I make a suggestion that if you guys vote as one voice of what the majority feels, maybe that's what should go forward to, so we're not.
Agreed.
done with
No, agreed.
Options and it's coming back here again.
yep, agreed.
I think that's our intent, is to make a recommendation. Sounds like it's going to be a 4-1, but
3. Oh, 4, yeah.
I like both of them.
okay, let's move this forward. So I'd entertain a motion to direct staff to engage bituminous roadways for the full parking lot pave at 52,545. In addition to that, allocating a budget of $5,000 for portable plantings and planters and plantines, and a couple benches for that area to soften it up between the street and the lot, and carry that back to council for a 50% contribution, which means that our contribution would be 50% of 57,545.
Can I ask one question, if you wouldn't mind?
You may, sir.
Now, for winter time, we're having terrible times trying to have storage for snow. If we give that enough of an angle and a drain, and can blacktop withstand that? Is that okay to store snow on?
Oh, yeah. You're gonna have your salt, sand, and trash in it, but you can store it there.
Because in the wintertime, we'd be using it as a park. That's why I was curious to see, because I know we're running
If it was
short
concrete,
on.
it might come apart, but asphalt would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking for a motion. So moved?
So moved.
Okay.
Second that.
I have a second?
I will second that.
I have a motion and a second.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have 4 ayes, 1 nay. Councilmember Cole, and 1 abstention. Mr. Shifsky. Motion carries.
Got it.
Great.
Moving forward,
We'll see.
to at least look at it more.
Okay, treasurer's report.
Okay.
Randy.
Included in your packet, I put in a new format for your treasurer's report. I'm clearly not an accountant, but I'm trying to get it to make sense to me as I'm working through it. So you can see that our ending fund balance for the month of June is $390,950.18. I put in the staff report the expenses that we've had throughout the year, just to give you a sense of what our invoices have been and what what they amount to and where they're going to. So we've paid Campbell Knutson for some legal advice. We paid half of the open window production video marketing contract. We have paid for the EDA training from our attorney, general liability insurance, the fall roundup parade discussion, we were billed for that initially, and then we had that pulled off, so you see that subtracted from our invoice list, and another general liability payment in June. Any questions about how that was put together this month?
No, but that's very helpful from where we've been on the treasurer's report.
Okay. If this format is appreciated, then I'll try to keep with it and maybe make it a little bit more legible. It's a little smaller than I expected.
Everybody good with that? Accountant? There you go.
I think I'm off by 4 cents, and I just couldn't figure out how to get that to work.
Material.
Seems small enough that I didn't need to pull the finance director in, though.
To the plus or the minus?
I don't recall. Let's just say we got 4 cents
You got
extra.
an extra 4 cents.
Yeah, I'll donate.
I'll donate.
Yeah, I'll give $1.
You got an extra 4 cents, so you did well.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay, so our,
Look at it, and we stop looking at the cents. That's why I said it balanced.
so current cash balance, 341,702, is that correct?
That is correct.
And our levy has not hit the account yet, is that correct?
That is correct. July. Patience. Oh, it is July.
It is July.
Give it a month.
Okay.
Give it a month.
So we'll see that next month.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions on treasurer's report? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into staff updates.
Okay. In your packet, I think I'm going to keep this format up too for future reference. So anything that we've had is like ongoing discussion items that don't need action. I'm just going to try to keep them going in a staff report like what you have included in here. So since many of you probably haven't had time to review this in full, given the lack of the packet out until this morning, I'll just kind of go through them. So the Lily redevelopment project, that is something that's been ongoing for the past year and a half. The developer had been working for a significant amount of time over the course of the fall and winter trying to get his financing secure, and that didn't occur until last month. We did have a couple of action items. We took his revised plan to Planning Commission and City Council for a PUD amendment. He also needed a comprehensive plan amendment, and then he needed a TIF agreement amendment. He was asking for a little bit more assistance to the tune of about $800,000. So all of those were passed by City Council on June 6th. And the next step for the developer is to do a grant agreement and a grant sub-grant agreement for the Met Council TBRA grant. And that's going to go to council next Tuesday. He did have 3 other grants, but given the provision and some of the details about prevailing wage, he couldn't make the contracts work, so we're not going to pursue those after all. So he's just going to go with the TBRA grant. I did get an email today from the Met Council. The comprehensive plan application has been approved by them as well, so the door is closed on that, so that's a success. So at this point, we're just kind of waiting on Jim to give us his progress in terms of how is his financing working, given the reduction in the grant revenue, and also just a status update. He did pull a permit for a demolition this week, though, so that's forward momentum.
Perfect.
Any questions on that?
Can you just make sure our reimbursables are somewhere in all those numbers?
It's in my notes, yep, for the housing study and the Port Authority.
Any idea the timing of the beginning of the demolition?
I think in July here, but I'll double check on that.
I was talking to the fire chief, they were taking the big fuel tank, they were working on the permit to get that out, and then the big ink tank. So that's what they're working on this week so far.
Cool.
Okay, so next up is our Open Window Productions video. They have been filming and they have been working with Carrie to get some interviews from businesses. They didn't have everything scheduled in time to have a video ready for this meeting, but I believe they'll have a draft for review next month. City lot at 17th Avenue in Delaware. Are you all familiar with this one? It's an empty lot that used to have a church on it up on 17th Avenue in Delaware. We had a couple of developers come to the city directly over the course of the winter that were interested in purchasing it, and so we put out an RFP, and just to those three that had given us some interest. And we had 2 proposals that were provided that were complete, and those 2 will both be going to city council on Tuesday to provide presentations at the workshop. So we can potentially move forward on one of those to develop that lot. Any questions on that one? Nope. Okay. The lot across the street, Margaret Street site, you recall at the last meeting, we had John Dobbs come in here on behalf of Mulcahy to do a presentation on a possible garage condo concept. And so we've kind of batted around how to move forward with that as at a staff level, and we came to the conclusion that it would be most appropriate to broaden the net to give others the opportunity to also apply. And so we just double-checked that with the city attorney, and he agreed that that was a smart approach. So we put together an RFP. It's included in the packet. It has not been sent out yet, but we just wanted to make sure that you were all in agreement with that process before doing that.
I am not, and the reason I am not is because, first of all, we did issue an RFP on that site a number of years ago. We had limited takers. We've been down the path with, pretty far down the path with one developer already. We tied the property up for a significant period of time. The Mulcahy proposal, as it came in, it incorporates a significant amount of property not owned by the city. So I'm not sure how that works out in an RFP response where other submitters are restricted to the city-owned property. But probably my biggest concern about it is notwithstanding having run it by the city attorney, and I understand the guidance and the need and desire for transparency. I don't think we've done anything that has not been transparent relative to those parcels. We've had them listed publicly. We did issue, although it may have been a limited issue, RFP 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Again, that met with limited response. And part of at least what I do, and I think we all have done or will do as part of being members of the EDA, we do spend some personal capital, if you will, in getting out there, talking to people, trying to get them to do things. And in this case, I spent some of my own personal capital in that, getting these folks to the table, and dealt in what I believe was good faith, not making any deals on behalf of the EDA. Everything came to the EDA. Everything was wide open. And we told them that we would get with them on next steps, and now the next steps is we're going to go out to the street. That doesn't feel good to me. So that's what I have to say.
I concur with that assessment wholeheartedly. It's just going to be another delay of something that's really exciting that could come our way. And again, way back when we tried to develop these open slots, it's going to be somebody who has roots in our town that wants to do something. That's what's happened consistently. And if you don't think this gentleman has said once before on a development that, boy, it's pretty hard to work with North St. Paul. I don't want that to see happen here. This is an exciting project for all the points that we made back in May with the car show enthusiasts and everything else. It just fits. and you've got someone who's got local ties who wants to step up and invest, I can't agree with you more, Mr. Chairman.
Any others?
I like the project because it takes part of his land, like you mentioned before, plus it keeps that alleyway for all of our electrical and sewers and everything else that goes through the back of it, correct? Am I being correct? Please let me know. So that was in the plan where that was gonna be street or driveway for the cars to go through and things like that. So to me, it's the best of both worlds. We're getting rid of a smaller lot, he's adding more land. We still keep our easements opened up. I don't know why we would do anything else. It's not a very big piece of property.
It's not, and I'd like to throw something there as well. I am new to this position. I do not know, ever been part of conversations that have happened 3, 4, 5 years ago in this position, even though I worked for the city, I've done it department. We are trying to do things appropriately on this level, by following, encouragement from clearly the council or attorneys, and so that's why an RFP was thought to be appropriate. Certainly wasn't stepping on toes. I knew what you had just said, I mean, maybe we'd have a different conversation right now, or would have happened. So a little bit of understanding would be nice with the situation as well. We're
Yeah, I'm not, just to be clear, I'm not throwing stones at staff. I mean, it's in the packet, I'm responding to it. I understand. I do take issue with, as to whether we've been transparent on that parcel. I think we've been quite transparent. So that's my point. And specific to what Mulcahy's brought forward, whether we like it, don't like it, not really the issue. The issue is that we've gone through a number of gyrations on those parcels, on the parcels over there. And we have a willing and ready developer. And it would not shock me if we said, we're now gonna go out to RFP and you're gonna get in the RFP dance, that they walk away with their land and their capital that they're ready to bring. And I don't think that would be good for the city.
No, it has not.
Well, there we go. Would you guys prefer that we did not? And that also goes for you guys on the council level and knowing how government works. Would you rather we just move forward where we're at, or would you rather this go back to council?
That's a key point, how government works. And I'm not good at that yet, so I'm learning, so.
I think what I'm hearing, at least from three of you, is that the preference is to take it straight to council and maybe give them a presentation similar to how you're going to get a presentation on this 17th Delaware property, and then take it from there.
That's what I would like to see. Because that way it comes part of it. I mean, that's the next step of this. How do you think? I might just.
No, I'm aligned with you. I think that we bring it to council and we'll get a clear understanding of, and again, my apologies, a lot happened at the last
Yeah.
May meeting that I missed, so I don't know what the renders look like. I don't know what the property will look like directly across the street from City Hall. So it's hard for me to weigh in with a firm opinion, but I think bringing it to council is definitely the right next step.
I could certainly see if he's available to do it next Tuesday, but I'm suspecting that he probably is going to need a little more time.
He's
We
expecting
only
it.
have one meeting in August.
He's expecting a call from me tonight, so
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Tuesday.
We could potentially, I don't think we have too much on the actual council agenda at this time, so we might be able to put it on during the city council meeting if,
I guess my big part is he's bringing something to the game, bringing over half of the land, if I'm not mistaken.
He's bringing less than half. I think it's about 30% of the
He
dirt, but,
makes it a good-sized lot, so
right, but it's,
when you're done with it.
he's bringing a fair amount to the table besides the capital itself and the willingness to take the risk, however you want to measure that. And I think that's going to be, even if we all had said, well, we need to go to an RFP because we haven't, really exposed that property to the marketplace, which I don't think is the case, we'd still be comparing apples and oranges. If they decided to stay in the game and bring back a same or similar proposal, because they're bringing a bunch of dirt. And if somebody walked in and had a competing proposal, I'd be hard pressed not to take the one that's,
I was just thinking, under the circumstances, that they would be far more competitive because they do have something to bring to the table, whereas hardly anybody else would.
yeah, and if there was something, statute-wise or, city code-wise that said we couldn't do it this way, I'd understand, but
I don't think that's the case.
okay, I don't think.
It was a matter
Yeah,
of.
and this wasn't a backdoor deal, all of this has been done in the open, so again, that's been sitting there for quite some time. I mean, we have literally been, I think, dealing on those parcels even before the dentists move out of there. We were trying to get a deal done.
So out of curiosity, jumping back to the green space site, did we do a similar RFP for that ever?
I don't think we
And
did.
how have we marketed that one?
I don't think we did, but we had entertained a couple of folks that had some interest, and I think we engaged an architecture firm to do some renderings of what a retail restaurant space would look like on the first floor with a small amount of housing above, which I think was going to be dedicated to fire department housing. And I think at the time, I mean, I don't remember what that was all about. But I don't think it's been ever broadly put out for an open RFP.
Part of it just
It has had a sign on it, says available for development for at least 7 or 8 years.
It really doesn't say for sale. It drives my wife nuts
Oh.
because it says future home for development. It's like, is it already done? Is it ready to go?
Well, there was at one point, I don't know if it is currently, but at one point, on the, number of city-owned properties were listed for sale on, I don't know what site that is.
You can hang a little sign right below.
Some site that led you to some random realtor that none of us know. But at any rate,
There you go.
it's been advertised, but not, no RFP has been issued for that. And I'll just be frank, Mr. Mayor, I think that's a difficult site. We could issue an RFP, but it's probably not gonna go too far because you think that site's tight, that one's worse.
Almost needs to have one of the other buildings joined
Yeah.
in down the lines.
If Sidewinders or those other buildings were to be looking to redevelop or something like that, that would probably make more sense, so. I'm sorry, was there more comments down here, Joe? No, okay. Any other thoughts or comments? So I don't think that it requires action. I think it's just back to our staff direction to, it sounds like to continue to work with the developer, which next step would be a presentation to council on their plan. Is that correct? Okay, and not hearing any opposition to that, that would be the continued staff direction and not issue the RFP. So, he just called and asked for an update. And I just said, I don't have one, but we have a meet, that was yesterday, and I said, we have a meeting tonight, so I'll call you back when, I hadn't seen the packet at that point, but I did exchange emails with Brandy, and she had indicated that you guys had talked to council and you were talking about the RFP, so. I didn't realize you were gonna actually write it, or I would have suggested maybe you pause on that, because I was gonna throw a fit up here on the dais.
I'd like to see that.
Is it prudent for us to emphasize that we're really in favor as an EDA to moving forward? I know that's where you're at, but overemphasize it since it's being presented to the council again and.
Being in support of moving forward, okay. Yeah, we can do that. So I'll entertain a motion to, hold on, let me think about what this motion says.
Support of the concept proposal for the garage condo at the site across the street. It's in
The
there.
EDA, yep, EDA is in support of the garage condo proposal. Next steps, we haven't seen a finished product, that city pursue a development proposal with those folks to be presented to council.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a second. Any further discussion?
I'm confused. So I wasn't here in May, so I haven't seen the full packet, so
You can,
shall I just abstain? 'Cause
you're
I'm-
welcome to. You don't have to, but you can.
Because otherwise I.
Or you can be an uninformed voter. Up to you.
Why don't I just abstain,
Okay.
just for, it's gonna go down the road without me regardless, so that's, we're moving in the right direction, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do.
So abstention would be you're not for or against.
Correct, I'm just gonna abstain.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
I,
Those opposed? And we have one abstention.
Perfect, thank you.
So the motion carries. EDA supports this. I'll contact the developer, as I told him I'd get back to him tonight, and Brandy, I'll ask him to get in touch with you, but I will give him a heads up for presentation to council.
Yeah, I think I'll call him after the meeting, just so he.
That's fine.
For me first.
I would add one thing just to this topic, not specifically to this. One of these facilities just came online in Egan. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely, I don't think this is going to be of the same caliber. That's pretty high end, but it is spectacular.
Cool.
So whatever that's worth. So and they are going up all over the place. I think White Bear, I know, City of White Bear heard a developer proposal on one last week. Very similar. So they're coming.
I can't believe the ones that drove, after we had our meeting, they drove over there and drove around.
Right.
There's gotta be 200 of them or better.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, and they're not unsightly by any
no,
means.
and I don't think they're cheap.
No, they're not.
Oh, and Rosemont too has one that just started construction. Yeah, right off 42, so. Any rate, back to the staff updates, sorry. Pine Tree, we're on.
Yep, Pine Tree, no update there, just summarizing it so that we had it on our radar. The last time we talked, there was confirmation that we were going to take no action at this time. Pizza Factory, we will be getting the bill from a Little Box Architect for their lease area drawing that was prepared to the discussions that staff has had with Tracy Luther. We were informed that there's not really an issue negotiating a lease, but it's more the build out for the space, which seems to be cost prohibitive. I wasn't able to get in touch with Cal, so this is from Tracy, what he understands the issue to be. So I'm not entirely sure what the next step is with that, if any. Just an update on where we are with Pizza Factory.
Okay,
Reflex Medical, I tried to reach out to Kevin Fuller to see if we can get a meeting set up, and I have yet to hear back from him. And the EDA bylaws, I'm in the process of looking at those, but I may need to pull in the attorney to give me some advice on how to update those as well.
and that's just to bring them up to date with current statute, et cetera? Or was there other meaningful change we were looking for within that?
Well, our former planning commission chair had brought up a couple of items that she thought might need to be corrected to bring them into legal conformity. So I'm sort of going back and forth on those issues to see if it's really necessary or not.
To bring the EDA bylaws into,
Correct.
perfect. Okay. Any questions of staff on the updates? Hearing none, I will, we don't have it on here typically. There's a section for chair member updates. So I'll use the chair prerogative to, is that okay to still do that? Okay, I'll use chair prerogative to inject that into the agenda. Any other updates or comments from any other members? Joe? Chris?
Thanks for the update.
I'll save you for last. Mr. Shivsky?
Nothing at this
Councilmember
time.
Cole?
One thing I'm putting out there for you guys to think about, to see if, so with the development of the building project, they were looking at 9 units on floor level for workers situations, which sometimes they do have to
Yeah, I don't, I think it's probably ultimately council authority to, how is it written? Do they need to obtain council authority if they want to convert that from live work to residential units?
I know there's a bigger one down the end too, we're really trying to hit for the retail area of it.
It's my understanding that the 1,500 square feet of commercial space that was originally proposed was going to continue to be there, and they were going to market it for at least a year, and then if that couldn't be filled, then it would convert to live-work units, those 2 units.
Just on the end there.
Yep.
the bigger one. The other ones are gonna start out as live work, but he doesn't have a guarantee for those. But
Right.
the 1,500, he gave us a year to find somebody.
Correct.
Better sized unit at the end there, try to make something a little bit bigger in there.
Are the live work zones such that they can be just work,
That's what's supposed
They
essentially a
can,
retail space?
they certainly can, yes.
have like a kitchen area in the back for your staff and up front to do.
Insurance
whatever.
person?
I believe
You don't necessarily have to live there.
No, the ceiling height went from 12 feet to 10 feet, but it didn't drop to 8, so it was still height high enough to be able to just be work.
Yeah.
And they're, and those are rental spaces, right? Not, it's not condo-wise. Yeah. I mean, to me, that it would seem like something that is within our purview and worthy of getting involved in it. What that looks like from an EDA perspective, I'm not sure yet, but I think the live work piece, I think we question it right out of the gate. I've been seeing it for years. People, oh, live work. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? And with the exception of a couple odd spaces over in the northeast Minneapolis where, some guy welds in the front and sleeps in the back, making art figurines. I haven't seen it be successful around town, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be here. And I think we should advocate for that because I do think that would create again, a little out of our lane, but I think it does create a good connection, having some sort of business or retail or whatever it winds up being at that end of the main drag, if you will, to kind of tie it into the rest. So any other thoughts or comments from the EDA? Were you asking something specific, or is that just something we'd be interested in getting involved in? Right. Right. No, I think that's, I do think that that's something that we can certainly take a look at, even if it's just pairing resources, making sure other brokers are aware of it. To me, that's always a big thing. Because, these, the Crossroads Properties types of the world, they get calls all the time. Hey, I'm looking for 600 square feet. I don't have 600. I got 60,000. I don't have 6,000 or 600 square feet, right? So to make people aware of it so that they can steer people there, if we do nothing more than that, that would certainly be a benefit to, the development, so. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Frandl? Brandy? Chris? Guy in the booth? He's got nothing?
Good.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Stuff at this time.
Okay, hearing nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn 14 minutes early.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. And our next meeting is? August 8th.